Hey y'all, Mr. Lapeze here again, just like I did with essay number one, with some tips and things to think about before your essay number two is due this weekend coming up. First thing, thesis statement. I've had a few questions about thesis statements for this essay. I know the approach is a little bit unorthodox. It's probably not something everyone's used to. But what I did with the essay prompt was I gave you a claim that you have to defend to some degree. So the claim you have to defend is that people cannot be completely free. So your thesis should start with something along the lines of people can never be free. And where you individualize yourself and where you get specific and you create a good thesis is how you fill in the blank for the rest of the statement. And so you have three options. People can never be free. They will always be imprisoned by ignorance, knowledge, and or the tools used for learning. And so you will choose one, two, and or all three of those things as hindrances to freedom. And then you will explain why. Remember on the second page of the essay number two prompt, I have a fill in the blank sample thesis. It's basically as simple as that. You have to argue that people cannot be free. And then from there, you make your paper for the reason why. Is it because they know too much, which would be knowledge? Because they don't know enough, which would be ignorance, and or they are subject to certain tools for learning, books, the ideas of others being passed down by stories, computers, technology, all that stuff, anything we use for learning. So those are the options. So make sure your thesis is something along the lines of people can never be free, and here's why. And your why has to include one, two, and or all three of those reasons that are listed in the prompt. Second thing to think about, make sure you understand there is no outside research required for this essay. A few people slipped with essay number one with this. Most people, however, got it correct. So no outside research. However, you have to use all three of the readings we've read for essay number two. So you have to use at least one time for support evidence from Turkle's essay, How Computers Change the Way We Think, from Frederick Douglass's essay, and from Plato, The Allegory of the Cave. Basically, what people are doing, what's the easiest thing to do, is to quote at least one time each from the essays. You can paraphrase. Summary isn't really necessary. Basically, a quotation from each one, at least one, checks that box. If you want to quote more, if you feel like you need more support, go for it. Just know that all of the evidence examples for support of your ideas of body paragraphs, which is going to be evidence in support of your thesis, should come from the readings or your own personal knowledge. And remember that we're not using first person this semester. So no I, me, mine, we, us, none of that. So if it's a personal example, couch it in the third person, he, she, they. Lastly, too many people didn't reach the full length requirement for essay number one, to please me at least. Make sure you reach the full length requirement. This essay, the second essay, is 4 full pages. That means 4 pages down to the very bottom of page 4, if not spilling on to page 5. And that does not include your works cited page. And then language requirements. By now, college English class, second semester of a college English class, you should be trying for perfection in spelling and language mechanics. I mean, no misspelled words and no comma splices, fragments, or run-ons. Those are the 3 biggest sentence faults, so slips in basic sentence structure. So no misspelled words, no comma splices, fragments, or run-ons. And finally, as sort of a coda to this whole video, let me explain sort of the genesis of this assignment. If you look at Frederick Douglass's Learning to Read and Write, I have mine open right here. The very first paragraph of Douglass's essay, he's talking about Mistress Hugh, the mistress who begins sort of kind-hearted, and then at the behest of her husband, turns against teaching Douglass and wants nothing more than for him to stop reading. He says in that first paragraph, Mistress Hugh at first lacked the depravity she needed for shutting me up in mental darkness. That's the quotation that gave rise to this essay assignment. that she at first lacked the depravity. She wasn't even evil enough at first for shutting me up in mental darkness. And the idea that Douglas is getting at there, it's a metaphor, is that you could be locked up in mental darkness. In other words, you could be locked up, chained up, shackled in ignorance. That ignorance is a type of cage, is itself a type of slavery. And you can see that idea echoed throughout Douglas. As he learns, he gets closer to being free, literally and intellectually. And yet it's tough, right? He encounters obstacles as he learns. At one point, he reads and learns enough about abolition, about being free, that he wants to kill himself. He becomes suicidal. The same idea is present in Plato, that learning is tough. It's a rough ascent out of the cave into the light. People don't want to look directly at the sun and learn about the things that the sun shines on, which translates out of the allegory into it's hard to learn. Everybody in here has experienced this by now. You're all adults. Lots of times you learn things that are tough, that are contrary to previous held beliefs, and so it's hard. Learning is a difficult task. And then with Turkle, the tools we use to learn nowadays are primarily technological. I'm sitting here making a video for you as a teacher to students. We use Blackboard. We use Microsoft Office Suite. She references PowerPoint and Word in her essay. She talks about gaming and about sort of developing a sense of self using avatars and how that can be sort of problematic. And so I would think of Turkle and her sort of weighing of the pros and cons of technology as giving you something to compare the books and the speeches that Douglas reads to, because those are the ways that people learn. We learn now by technology. Douglas learns from word of mouth, but also from the books he learns to read, from the acquiring the alphabet, and from the speeches he reads. And they're problematic for Douglas, just like technology can be problematic for us. So the idea behind the essay is that knowledge is liberating. That's what we're talking about. And then on the other hand, it imprisons us. It's something that we can't run away from. It presents a set of obstacles for doing what we want, thinking what we want, acting how we want. And so everybody's essay is going to argue that people cannot ultimately be free. However you define freedom, it's up to you. You have 4+ pages to do it. And then why? Because we know too much, knowledge, we don't know enough, ignorance, or we're sort of chained to these ways of learning that are themselves obstacles to freedom. Things like computers, technology, social media, web sources in general, and books, speeches, learning from other individuals, all of that stuff. Best of luck. If I can help between now and the due date, just let me know. And yeah, congrats again on everybody's essay number 1. Like I said, I think it was around 73% of the class passed with an A, B, or C, which is awesome. It's really awesome for an English 111 first essay. Let's try, I hope, to get around 80-85% passing, if not higher, with this essay. So like I said, let me know if I can help. Have an awesome week, and stay dry out there.